Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us at this year's second annual Columbia University DPT National Advocacy Dinner. My name is Samantha Vargas, and I'm so glad that you all could join us. Our guest speaker is Dr. Jeremy Crow, and Dr. Crow, as he prefers to be called Jeremy, is the Director of Clinical Education at SPEAR Physical Therapy, and he received his Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Science with sports medicine emphasis from Florida State University in 2000, and where he was a scholarship student athletic trainer. Shortly thereafter, Jeremy interned with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the NFL and went on to earn his doctorate in physical therapy from New York University in 2006. And in 2009, he was awarded his certification in a board-certified sports clinical specialist from the American Physical Therapy Association. He additionally serves as a personal trainer and a certified strength and conditioning specialist and a certified full-body active release technique provider. While representing our lovely profession, Jeremy served as a field of play medical volunteer physical therapist for the volleyball venue at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. And he's contributed to Reader's Digest, Managing Pain Book, and has authored various articles on hip rehabilitation. Jeremy's also very active in the APTA and the New York Physical Therapy Association, serving on the board of directors, as a delegate to the APTA House of Delegates, and on numerous committees for both the NYPTA and the APTA. And when not helping others achieve their best, Jeremy enjoys working out, running, hiking, and traveling the world. And on a fun note, Jeremy holds his first degree black belt in Taekwondo. So please join me in a round of applause to welcome.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank Jenna and Samantha for arranging this perfect event tonight, and also for inviting me to speak to you guys. I think, this is the first step of you guys' hopefully long journey for advocacy. It's important. I was talking to Jenna earlier. I was the future. You guys are going to be the future now. And so the sooner you get involved, the more you get involved, the better our profession will be. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm maybe a little particular and meticulous, but I am also a planner. So when Jenna asked me to speak to you guys tonight, I had some questions for her. Some of the questions were, of course, what's the topic, who's the audience, and how long do I have to speak? When she told me I had 30 to 45 minutes, I'm like, that's easy. I can speak about myself easily for 30 to 45 minutes. But when she said I had to speak about advocacy, I'm like, that's Friday night advocacy, 30 minutes, that's a long time. So we compromised, and I'll speak a little about my advocacy journey, but also ways that you can get involved at the many different levels for advocacy. A little bit about my path. I grew up a son of farmers in a small farm town in Iowa, and that's Iowa in the Midwest. And we're known for corn. Just a little geography review. Not Idaho and potatoes. Iowa. I graduated from a small high school in Iowa, and then I went on to go to Florida State. And I was fortunate enough to be a scholarship athletic trainer, and I worked with all the teams. And during that time, we won in 1999 and 2000. The football won. We beat Virginia Tech and won a national championship. So that was one of the highlights of my college teams. And I remember during that time sitting in the training room and looking at, after I was thinking about what to do after graduation, I was thinking about moving to New York City. I was looking at PT schools, specifically NYU, New York University. And I remember sitting in the training room thinking, could someone from Iowa move to New York City, first of all, and then attend a private school like NYU and make it? Well, in April 29, 2000, I did just that. I graduated walked across the stage of my Florida State graduation, and I took a flight later that night, and I moved to New York City. I remember it clearly. I had $2,000 in my bank account. I was going to stay with a friend, and I would just figure things out. Just so you guys know, I've changed a lot since those days. I remember when I moved to New York City, I got a job working as a personal trainer at Equinox. I worked for a year, and I decided to go to apply to PT schools. Remember back in those days, PT schools were transitioning from master programs to doctorate programs. So before I decided to apply, I wanted to make sure that's something I wanted to do because it was going to be 3 years. I got accepted to both, and I decided to stay in New York, and I later graduated in 2006. During my tenure at NYU, I met Dr. Marilyn Moffitt, who was my professor, mentor, and colleague. She strongly encouraged us to be APTA members as students, attend national conferences, including the Combined Sections meetings, the National Student Conclave, and other programs like the Next. She also stressed the importance of attending their district and chapter meetings. As I look in the audience tonight, I remember my first aha moment in my long advocacy journey. It started at the Combined Section meetings in 2005 in San Diego. That's when my passion for advocacy was ignited. After attending Combined Section meetings, I remember attending the Greater New York District, which is our district, which makes up Manhattan and Bronx, district meetings, and I applied to be a student delegate for the Delegate Assembly. And each year, our chapter, the New York Physical Therapy Association, has a Delegate Assembly. The Delegate Assembly is the highest policy-making body for the New York chapter. It consists of voting members, the PTs and PTA program, PT and PTAs from each of the districts. There's 10 districts that make it up. And like I said, Greater New York is Manhattan and Bronx. And there's also the non-voting members, which are the executive committee, which makes up the president, the vice president, treasurer, secretary, and member at large. The speaker of the assembly, the chief delegate, and the student and student affiliate. It meets in the spring. This year it's May 11th and 12th, and it's usually 1 month prior to the APTA House of Delegates. First attending the Delegate Assembly as a student delegate, I was completely overwhelmed with the process of governance and advocacy, but it did inspire me to want to understand the importance of what we are doing for our profession and our communities. You fast forward that year, and I was selected to be an APTA House of Delegate Ushers. This was similar to our New York chapter Delegate Assembly, but it was on the national level and consisted of about 400 delegates. This is where I gained valuable experience and appreciated what it takes for change to occur. I had to admit I didn't have the patience to truly understand this process. It has taken me 12 plus years to understand this is a process and change does take time. November 23rd, 2006, New York State finally got restricted direct access. So what does that mean? It means that a physical therapist who graduates with a doctorate, has been practicing for 3 years, is able to treat a patient without referral for 10 visits or 30 calendar days. This is something our leaders have been fighting for over 20 years. Change is difficult and it takes time. As a young professional, this process was and still is a challenge for me to accept. And later I'll talk about the lobby day, how one of the things we're fighting for is to get unrestricted direct access. My second aha moment was the summer of 2010, when I was sitting enjoying this nice Saturday in Central Park with my friends. I got a call from Matt Hyland, who was at that time the NYPTA president, who had asked if I'd ever considered serving as secretary. The current secretary won the election as vice president, and there was 1 year left on her term. And the executive committee was doing a list of potential emerging leaders, and my name was fortunate to be on that list. I had contacted some of my local mentors and asked if I should consider this position. They had told me there's an established path that one must be taken to become an NYPTA officer. I need to serve as a district chair, then you serve as an officer. When someone discourages me from pursuing a professional goal, it motivates me to prove them wrong. I decided I would accept their offer and interview for the secretary position. I thought it was 1 year and worst case scenario, if the delegates would not vote for me, if I chose to run the following year. Many interviews later, I was chosen to fulfill the remainder 1 year term as the NYPTA secretary. I was fortunate to win 2 other consecutive elections as secretary. The knowledge and mentoring I received during those years, I will carry with me forever. I was being groomed to run for the NYPTA president in 2014, which was one of my goals to become the youngest New York NYPTA president in history. Serving as a secretary at the New York Physical Therapy Association Delegate Assembly, I sat on the dais as an officer of the Delegate Assembly when the speaker of the Delegate Assembly read the election results. Unfortunately, I lost the election, but this was the hardest moment of my professional career. I felt the eyes of 100 people looking at me and waiting for a reaction. To this day, it was the greatest professional disappointment I've ever had to overcome. But as a leader of the association, I had to ignore this defeat and press forward. Personally, I felt defeated and I wanted to step down. I had 1 more year to serve as secretary. The election happened on a Saturday. On a Monday was a new elected monthly NYPTA Executive Committee conference call. It's hard to deal with a defeat, especially knowing I did all I could do to win this election. It took a few weeks to realize that it's the disappointments who define us as a person. Ironically, during my last year, I was the youngest officer who was mentoring my older senior officers because I had the most executive committee experience. This loss also inspired me to do more with the path I was currently marching on. I wasn't happy with my job situation, and I wanted more. I decided to change job, which was the second hardest professional decision I had to make. Change is never easy and is often scary, but I was fortunate to join SPEAR, and they created a new role for me as the Director of Clinical Education. This was a great change because they have been very supportive of my aspirations to do more, serving as a sports medicine volunteer at the United States Olympic Training Center, and then again serving as an on-field physical therapist for the volleyball venue at the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games. Reflecting on my career, I probably would have never had the opportunities to do these things if I would have been elected for the NYPTA president. It's cliche when one window closes, another door opens. I didn't choose this lifestyle, but this lifestyle chose me. I feel so fortunate for the professional opportunities I've accomplished so far. I'm the Director of Clinical Education at SPEAR. We have 15 PT-owned clinics and are setting new industry standards for the profession to follow. I'm a lab instructor here at Columbia for the PT procedures, where I get to teach and shape the minds of the future to many of you guys. On the floor of my practice, I treat a full caseload. I mentor our new hires, and I'm the clinical instructor. I am on the on-site review for the Commission on Accreditation of Physical Therapy Education, or CAPTE, and for the last 12 years, I've served as a New York delegate to the APTA House of Delegates. And the APTA House of Delegates is the highest governing body for our profession. It's here at the House of Delegates where the policies for our profession occurs and where we elect our APTA House of Delegates, our Board of Directors. And I get all this done by noon. Enough about me, and now on to advocacy. I think advocacy is similar to leadership, and I want to quote an expert from Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win, by Jacob Wilkin and Leof Bevan. For Jacob and Leof, there are two main points. The first one is their advice is to take full responsibility for what is happening or has happened. If a member of the team has not understood one of his instructions, the team leader cannot blame him. It is the role of the leader to make sure that his team members understand his instructions. Likewise, if he himself doesn't understand the data he has received, he will take the responsibility and ask his superiors for an explanation, rather than saying it wasn't properly explained from the beginning. The second is there's no such thing as a bad team, just bad leaders. One of the main characteristics of a SEAL is their ability to work as a team. Indeed, there is nothing worse than a SEAL that can be viewed as individualistic or perceived as such. Lone individuals can't survive in the extreme conditions of special force operations. This is why, when selecting candidates, an enormous amount of energy is used to stimulate teamwork. But as much as is important to work as a team, it is equally as important to be a good leader leading these teams. You have certainly noticed how a good leader can help a team evolve towards success, whereas a bad one can make it lose. As leaders, we are advocating for our profession. Advocacy is leadership. Now, as I look into the crowd, I see some thoughtful expressions. You're probably thinking, how can I make a difference? Well, it's simple. You have a voice. As I know you're students, you're focused on school, but advocacy can happen at many levels. Consider the examples of March for Our Lives, Me Too, and Never Again. Each of these movements started with a few people who had a message for change. Through their actions, they engaged the national community and are working towards positive change. Now, what can you do today? First, by keeping your APTA memberships. There's power in membership, action through leadership. This is the path forward for advocacy. We have about 100,000 APTA members, and 30,000 of those are students. That is a lot of voices. The Student Advocacy Challenge was created to inspire PT and PTA students to get involved in advocacy on the state and federal level. Participate in this challenge will help students learn about the legislative process and to become more aware of the issues facing the physical therapy and the legislation. There's a Student Star Club. If you contribute at least $20 in the calendar year to the Physical Therapy Political Action Committee, you can be recognized for your support. I routinely have conversations with people on the importance of maintaining their membership. Money is usually the biggest deterrent of why the membership lapses. It is our job to show our colleagues and classmates why it is important to be members and all the benefits they will receive by being an active APTA membership. Also refer them to the www.apta.org/benefits, and also the NY chapter website at www.nypta.org. Both of the NYPTA and the APTA have numerous resources available to you and your patients. Secondly, everyone should download the APTA Action app. So if you guys have your phones, please go to the App Store and download the APTA Action apps. This is a powerful grassroots tools for physical therapists and physical therapy assistants and students and patients on the go. Third, you can join PT Teams. The PT Teams is a grassroots program which is a vital link to APTA success on Capitol Hill. All PT members will receive updates on federal legislation, including action alerts, newsletters, and information bulletins. Through these alerts, we ask you to contact your members of Congress on particular issues concerning your patients and the physical therapy profession. You can also sign up for PT Teams on www.apta.org/advocacy and just click on the Keep Alert, Join PT Teams. Next, you should get involved at the district level of the NYPTA. As we are part of the Greater New York District of the NYPTA, so like I said, Manhattan and the Bronx is considered the Greater New York. We are one of 10 districts that make up the whole chapter or the NY Physical Therapy Association. You can attend, there are many opportunities to attend local district meetings and have your voice heard. The next one, for example, is next Tuesday. Beyond the district is the chapter level. Every year we have a delegate assembly, which is usually in May. This year is May 11th and 12th. And this is where we have representatives from every district based on the PTA numbers in the respective districts. Fortunately for us, the Greater New York District, again, it's Manhattan, Bronx, we can send 33 PTA representatives, which is the largest of our chapter. I can tell you, having attended the last 14 delegate assemblies, Greater New York is always underrepresented. We usually send a very small delegation and are always looking for more members to be active and help us advocate. The NYPTA also is looking for students to be student delegates and also to be part of the election committees, because at the delegate assembly we have the elections for our local chapter officers. There's also a leadership workshop prior to the delegate assembly to help mentor new members. The bottom line is we offer many opportunities for people to get involved at various levels. Last Tuesday was lobby day, so on April 17th was lobby day, and I know Jen and I was up there. Basically, for lobby day is where we met up with our state level legislators, assemblymen, assemblywomen, and we talked about issues that are affecting our profession and our patients. You can also use the PT Action app to find out about talking points about what things we talked about. If you can't attend, you can also set up local, because remember, these are all your district, their constituents, so they also have local offices. I know myself and somebody else from Roger are going to be setting meetings, follow-up meetings with our assemblymen and senators here in our local area. Some of the issues that we talked about, there was 4 main issues that we talked about for lobby day. The first one is direct access. Like I said, in November 23rd, 2006, we got restricted direct access. One of the things that we're passing as a chapter association is to expand that direct access to unrestricted direct access. So that will eliminate the barriers of the 3-year practice requirements and also the 10 visits and 30 calendar days. The second main bill was our excessive copay bill. The NYPTA, again, is looking to pursue a passage of this legislation to reduce the copayments for our PT care. Right now, we're considered a specialty, as we want, and this new bill is going to have the same PT copayment as the primary care services. This would dramatically reduce the amount our patients are going to be paid each visit for PT. The third is an ATC opposition bill. Basically, the ATCs are trying to expand the scope of practice to include not just athletic populations, but include musculoskeletal or neuromuscular patients as well. And under the current educational system, there's no evidence that shows that they can actually do that safely. So that's one of the things we're fighting against. And the third point is the licensures for the PTAs. PTAs pass national licensure exams only to be considered in New York State as certified. This bill will actually correct the statute oversight and make it consistent with how we define the practice of the PTs as a licensed official, as opposed to just a certified. And the reason why this is important, it was actually introduced by our workers' comp, because under the current status, the payments for workers' comp for PTAs is non-existent because of this loophole. And lastly, money. Donate to the New York Physical Therapy Political Action Committee. Donating to the NYPTA Pact makes it possible for the NYPTA to have a voice and be proactive in Albany, educate and build relationships with our key legislations, and also have a voice heard on issues important to our profession. Our strong political action committee is critical to have our ability to be successful in the months and years ahead in advocating on behalf of our profession and moving our legislation agenda forward. There's also, as we had Lobby Day, there's also a federal advocacy forum. This is actually next week and happens on April 29th in Washington, D.C. I know Jenna's going. It brings together physical therapists, physical therapy assistants, and students each year to lobby Congress on issues impacting the profession. This conference provides issue updates and advocacy training and concludes with visits to your representatives and senators in their Capitol Hill offices. So I'm going to close by, I want you to remember this. We, our PT and PTAs, need to be aware of the laws and legislation that affect our daily lives and the practice of our patients. We do have a voice in the process, and we do have an active association that monitors the daily activities and protects and brings forth the ideas for our profession. We have strength in numbers and people being involved. You guys hear tonight's example. The elected officials are impressed when they get to meet their constituents and meet on important issues affecting them and the constituents, our patients. So remember, there are many opportunities to get involved. It just takes one person to believe in a cause and use their voice. Thank you.
I definitely do. I'm going to go. Would you mind actually going into detail regarding direct access, how it affects us as students for our first 3 years as clinicians with the block?
Right. Yeah. So as of right now, we have New York State has what's called restricted direct access. So for you guys graduating with a doctorate in physical therapy, which is everyone now, but you, under the current law, you have to have 3 years practice before you can see a patient basically off the street without referral for 10 visits or 30 calendar days. If this due bill passes, when you guys graduate, you can see a referral off the street basically without a restriction of the 10 visits or 30 calendar days before you have to refer out, but also that 3-year minimum is dropped.
Yes.
How do you deal with that sphere when someone calls up and says, hey, I want a physical therapy appointment? Is your staff trained to know like who they can and can't see?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes. I mean, so part of their intake form is you take out the patient's name, where they're coming in, do they have a referral, do they not have a referral, and then it gets put onto people's schedules accordingly. And also, if people like that do come in direct access, it helps us build relationships with physicians because it's a give and take. If the physicians refer to us, we refer to the physicians. So, but yes, our office is trained on that, and we have like parts of our documentation system. There's like blocks. If you do have, like, if I see a patient that has 10 visits or is over 30 calendar days, we have like these red lights that we have to go back and they have to refer them out to a physician.
Can you speak a little bit more about the ATC and why you do?
So it's been around for a couple years. It keeps getting put into the insurance. It probably will never go anywhere, but basically the ATCs are trying to increase the scope of practice. So they, under their current degree is a bachelor's, they're moving towards a master's in 2026 to encompass a little bit more of it too, so they can be able to practice, including neuromuscular and some other areas that's kind of outside the scope of practice right now. So the reason why we're opposing that is because there's been about 700 athletic trainers in New York State that are actually against this because they feel that their current education requirements do not meet the needs for this. And there's also, so in New York State, athletic trainers can also work under a physician. So right now, there's a certain cap on how many times they can see a patient before they get referred to the physician. If that bill passes, that opens up the language, and so they can basically have unrestricted care without being referred to a physician. And there's actually the Nurses Association that also have came out and wrote a letter of opposition because it's actually taken away from their scope of practice as well. So it's a very touchy protection of practice. Anyone else?
We just read a paper and we just had a review paper and that was presented in our memorial class where the trainers actually trained the PD patients, remember?
Your
The
personal
personal
trainer.
trainers. So it's a lot. There's a lot of people in
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, we do. Like, I mean, I was on the board. We dealt with this all the time, from athletic trainers, personal trainers, just protection over GPT, PT. There's a lot of scope of practice, chiropractors, physicians. There's a lot of legislation that moves out, and that's why it's important to advocate and to donate and to be supportive, because unfortunately, money and people bring about change, and the more people we have on the being our legislation, more constituents, the stronger our voices will be heard.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I just want to. Oh yeah.
Is anybody going as a student delegate to the
We have graduation during for the
It's May 11th and May 12th.
Yeah. So we have graduation at that time. But for anybody who's listening on the Facebook Live, please, and you are in New York City, May 11th, May 12th is the Delegate Assembly. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for being here, and definitely let's give another round of applause to Jeremy. Like, seriously, Jeremy is one of my mentors with advocating for the profession. He's somebody that I consult with on the phone. I've cried to over things. I'm just so frustrated because I want to get more involved, and I don't understand that when you're trying to make change, that you can make a big difference, but then there are always going to be setbacks along the way that might be frustrating for the profession. But all the bills that he was talking about with the NYPTA, they are for the health of our patients. So if you have treated, I think everyone in here has treated or seen patients be treated at least one time in their life, and when a patient has to cut their health care short because of finances, or if they only have 10 days or 10 sessions with the physical therapist, so 30 days, we know that's totally not realistic for somebody who is recovering from ACL surgery. That's literally saying goodbye to them, and they could end up having a limp for the rest of their life, and that is no way to live. And this is just something that I have grown more and more passionate about the more I've worked with these wonderful human beings. These could be our fathers, our mothers, our sisters, our future friends, our current friends, and so on. This is for just in general, the human race. When Jeremy was talking about athletic trainers, I have some good friends who are athletic trainers, and I ended up doing an interview with one and learned how much scope of practice they actually have, but also where there is that borderline. And with this bill, it's not saying that they don't have knowledge and a lot of great things to do. You athletic trainers, you have great things you do. It's wonderful. I love it. But it's the writing, it's the verbiage in the bill. It's so broad. I don't have it memorized right now, but I think I have it in my bag. It's so broad that it's like they could be a doctor prescribing medication. It says something along the lines, I forget what the verbiage is, but it's that broad. That's why nurses are going as well. It's just, it's encroaching to an area, a realm that in the wrong person's hands, a medical professional who's or an athletic trainer, where they could really hurt a person. And that's what's scary. It's not saying that they don't have knowledge. There's plenty of knowledge to go around and plenty of expertise where you can help people. But if you are going to be using verbiage like that, that's going to bring it that broad. That's where, of course, people are going to step in, because we are all about giving, including athletic trainers, including OTs, including PTAs. This is all a giving profession, so we need to come outside of ourselves. And that's where advocacy really, really can make a huge, huge difference. I understand that traveling to the Federal Advocacy Forum for going to lobby day is not always possible. I've been fortunate where my clinical affiliate rotation, they've been able to let me go with making up the days. I understand that's not possible, but emails, all that stuff makes a difference. These are human beings. The way they know that something even exists is by the more people poke at their shoulder. Not the annoying poke. It's like an email poke. They go, oh, how many emails about this subject did I get? The more emails they get on that subject, the more ticks they have. Same thing with a phone call. A meeting is so powerful, because when you go to this meeting, I did my first lobby day ever. I was so excited. I got to be with Jeremy. I got to be with Roger Herr, who's the secretary of the APTA, and he's fierce. Yes, Roger, you're fierce. being a constituent, when you go in, you'll feel it in the room, especially when your legislative representative, whether it be your senator or your assemblyman, your voice matters because they want to serve you. So when you go in, it's not nervousness. You can mess up on what you're saying. That's not a big deal. The point is they want to hear your voice and what you care about. And that alone, you can feel it in the room, how much of a difference you are making by being with them face to face. They know you have to take off time. It's a Tuesday. Like, come on. Like, we all have plenty of things to do. There's a PT procedures exam the day of the Federal Advocacy Forum when we go, when we're in DC. So, I mean, that makes it impossible for all the second or first, all the first years to attend the Federal Advocacy Forum. Good. Oh, great. Second years can come to the Federal Advocacy Forum. Great. But that is it. I'm just going off on my usual spiels, as I always do when I'm online, for anyone who follows me. When we are leaving, I would love to get a group picture of all of us. Please do any type of hashtag. I'll write up a couple on the board with a picture of you and someone here with you, just start doing a little check off, bringing attention to the physical therapy profession, bringing attention to the fact that we are fighting for certain things, and just to light some flames. So hopefully you guys are a little bit inspired today. We have food, please take it home. And that's it. All right, thank you guys.